As much as I would love to no longer have to speak on transgender people, on misogyny and violence against women, there lies a constant trend of violence against women being executed because the perpetrator is a man, is trans, or is both. Today, I'd like to continue a series documenting the disturbing trail of true crime committed by those in the trans community. This is not to bully or to pick out the worst of the worst examples. It is merely to show you the hypocrisy of the law and society's treatment of criminals who identify as such, and to raise awareness. Far too often they find themselves forgiven, forgotten, or placed into positions of power, and it is only through spreading knowledge of what they have done that we can do anything to combat this. Born as David Warfield, Dana Rivers gained fame for the first time in 1999 when he was fired from his teaching job in Antelope, California after he alerted his coworkers of his plan to transition to a woman. He worked at the school for 8 years, with consistent high ratings by his students. He was awarded an $80,000 grant in the school's 1993 Stand and Deliver Award for the most inspiring teacher during this time. After his dismissal, Mr. Rivers sued the school board and settled out of court for $150,000. This led to his rise as a trans activist as he gave accounts of his mistreatment and feeling of being different at a young age. From as far back as I can remember, I felt different, Rivers said in a Sacramento Bee profile in 1999. I got Tonka trucks for Christmas and it didn't feel right. I was socialized as a boy, but I didn't feel as though I belonged. One of our neighbors had a playhouse in the yard, and I remember very clearly wanting to be the mother. He was even tapped to run for the Democratic Party in 1999, although he declined. However, he is most well known for the murder of a lesbian couple and their son. This occurred in the aftermath of the closure of Michigan Women's Music Festival, after the expulsion of 8 male transgender-identifying individuals from the festival. Rivers attached his name to a campaign of over 60 male trans-identified people and allies whose aim was to end the 40-year-old annual feminist gathering, which permitted only women to enter. After heavy protests, the festival was shut down in 2015. Rivers' victims were 2 longtime attendees whom he was acquainted with. Computer prep teacher Patricia Wright, age 56, and hair salon owner Charlotte Reed, age 57, were a same-sex couple who married in 2015 and lived with their 19-year-old adopted son, Toto Benny Diambu, who wanted to become a nurse. As quoted from womenarhuman.org, shortly after midnight on November 11, 2016, law enforcement responded to reports of gunfire at the Oakland home that Miss Reed and Miss Wright shared with their adopted teen son. Arriving at the scene, police found the teen outside, bleeding to death from a gunshot wound. His adoptive parents were dead inside the house, each of their bodies riddled with multiple knife and bullet wounds. First responders who were attending to the dying teen heard a loud bang, and schoolteacher Mr. Rivers emerged from the garage covered in blood. The garage had been deliberately set on fire, police said. Police believe the fire was set in an attempt to cover up evidence of the murders. According to officers, the suspect tried to escape on Miss Reed's motorcycle, but they captured him. During the arrest, police found ammunition and knives in Mr. Rivers' pockets. He made spontaneous utterances about his involvement in the murders, police later reported. While Mr. Rivers is charged with 3 counts of murder, arson of an inhabited structure, and possession of metal knuckles, his case is yet to be brought to court. Kara Dangsky, a consultant, writer, and speaker, has taken an interest in the case and runs a website where one can check updates on the proceedings. On her website, she states, "My aim here is to do my best to provide as much up-to-date information as possible, and you are welcome to check back anytime. I will not be able to respond to individual emails about the case." February 17, 2022, she reports that the court still has not received the doctor's report, the purpose of which is to assess Rivers' competence to stand trial, and also the state of his mental health at the time of the offense, as his plea is not guilty by reason of insanity. To the best of my knowledge, the dates of the readiness hearing and the jury trial have not changed. They are, at the moment, still scheduled for July 2022. Although you will find claims that TERFs, almost used interchangeably for the word lesbian, physically hurt trans people, there have yet to be any cases of a TERF hunting and brutalizing a trans woman in the same way that this couple was victimized. There is an undeniable hatred of lesbians by the trans community. You can see it in the cotton ceiling, and you can see it in the utter disregard of the sanctity of same-sex spaces and protections. Lesbians represent the greatest form of validation of trans women in that they are only attracted to women, and so if a lesbian accepts a trans woman as a sexual partner, it must mean she sees him as a woman. Lesbians also tend towards separatism and radical feminism, and Lord knows that women criticizing men are hated just as much. The conflation of the two, especially in conjunction with Rivers' involvement with the shutdown of Mitchfest, paint a pretty clear picture of his potential motives. But as things stand today, the case is in limbo, and we will not have more information, let alone justice, for months to come. This, dear viewers, is where we part. Dana Rivers was a request. Honestly, I probably would have waited a bit, just until at least July when we get some more information, but I get the feeling we're not going to have much updates on this case for years to come, just because of how much the court system is backed up because of COVID, the way they're dragging their feet, and also because, as a psych major, I have taken a couple classes on psych and law, and basically psychology and law don't really mix well. You can get doctors to say whatever you want if you pay them enough money. So we'll see where this case ends up, but overall, it's just, I didn't hear about this in the news at all. As per a lot of, obscure news, I got it through Tumblr. I otherwise would have had no idea about what is very much a hate crime having been perpetrated by a community that likes to claim that lesbians are the bad guys, that we're the ones hunting them down for sport. And it really leaves a dirty taste in my mouth that we just haven't talked about it. No one talks about it. Not even the supposedly supportive conservative sites that like to call themselves gender critical. Overall, I just think this is a really sad case. I mean, they were living a happy life. They were married, they had a son, they had a family, they had businesses and aspirations. And I really wish there was more information out there about the victims, because I really feel like in a lot of cases like this, especially ones where it's murder and not just assault, we don't talk about the victims. We don't talk about what they could have brought to the world. I remember watching some footage of, I think it was a Ted Bundy trial, and the judge was just going on and on about how he had so much potential. He had so much he could reach for, and it's like, but then the women didn't. I feel like the victims were worth a lot more than this piece of shit. But of course, men protect men. It's how it is. I will see you guys next time. Bye.